Hold up, I ain't trying to stump, man, but the Yeezys jumped over the jump, man. I be in and out of arenas like I'm Scottie Pippen. Left my elbow in the pot, a la Vince Carter.
Bitch, you wasn't with me shooting in the gym?
James Harden with the range on me, nigga, way back.
Coach, they won't knock me off my pivot, get it.
Been flowing stupid since Vince Carter was on some through the legs arm and a hoop shit.
And you can live through anything if magic made it.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, now you do.
Yes, sir. We are back. Round of applause for yourselves. This is your guy, Marcellus Ease, and we are going to get into a bag today. There's a lot of moving parts in the sports media landscape overall, and with the Joey Taylor situation at Fox Sports, we're going to get great insight to a lot of the shakeups that are going on as a lot of things come in cycles. And the first take debate sports culture that was enhanced by Stephen A. Smith and Skip Bayless is beginning to receive some audience fatigue. And those television networks don't necessarily know how to pivot away from that sports debate culture and create something that audiences can gravitate to outside of traditional live sports broadcasting. So we'll get great insight from a person that was on the scene, and they reveal how a lot of these networks are really built on a house of sticks. Speaking of a house that's built on sticks, the rabbit hole gets deep with this Jontay Porter and Malik Beasley gambling scandal, as we'll hear from a few beat writers who got into their journalism bag and figured out how 3 guys from NBA Twitter knew that these 2 NBA players would be investigated almost 6 months ahead, and they were able not only to collect the evidence of just the social media posts, but they were also able to speak directly with some of the guys involved. And their investigation was so good, it actually opened up the Fed's eyes to realize that the Jontay Porter gambling incident was actually going on longer than what they initially investigated. Again, we're going to get into a bag of really good stories, and the rabbit hole really gets deep. So the sports media landscape is going through a lot of major industry shifts right now. Money's being moved around. Very few players are rising to the top, guys like Stephen A. Smith, while there's going to be plenty of others falling to the wayside. But in this segment right here, through the Joey Taylor incident at FS1 with the extra out of work activities, I should say, it exposed a lot. And we're going to hear from an insider of what the first take kind of sports media coverage is really all about. There's a lot of fake personas and fragile egos, and how there's a very thin line between fandom and covering it live on television. You know, ever since the 2010s and the success of First Take, we've seen a lot of different personalities come in and out the door. And that's because in the media landscape, anyone who really wants to be a journalist or just kind of have that anchor role on television, the easiest way to get into that industry is through sports. And right now, sports is almost like the last relic of a bygone era where people tuned in all at the same time to watch something live. So that real estate is very important, as most of these leagues are trying to go global, while at the same time people in the media industry are trying to get in. That's where you see the guys like Emmanuel Acho, who comes from that Oprah Winfrey tree, who was inserted to the position where he was at FS1, because the backers behind him understand that inserting their own members into sports media is important real estate, as they could shape minds, especially as these leagues go global. But Marcellus Wiley gave great insight to what this industry is really all about. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
What's crazy is how much politic and how much, like, people call it gossip, but it's not gossip. And you tell on yourself when you keep using the word gossip. If you've written these words lately, hater or gossip, you've been judged, at least by me, and you're dumb, or you're young, or you're just not enlightened. Everything we do in this industry is gossip. Everything. The only thing that is not is when you're literally watching a live game or a replay, and the person is literally saying, he is running stride for stride, first down. And none of us tune in for that. We're watching the game. We got multi-screen. We got 4x4 boxes. We got 6 games on at once. We're there to watch that. We take that in ourselves, the X's and O's. This industry is built off of the I's and U's, right? I and you. So no matter what show it is, First Take, Undisputed back then, Colin Cowherd, he is gossiping. He is talking about nouns, person, place, or thing. Something that happened, a thing, a person. That's why it's always about LeBron. That's why it's always about Dak. And what do you think they talking about? How many points he had? What's his PER? No, they talking about him.
And now we're seeing a fatigue of the whole LeBron GOAT talk. That's pretty much over. And the sports media landscape overall is going through a number of different fatigue stress factors coming from the supporters, the watchers, the so-called fans that they like to say. And if you relate it to real life, speaking to anyone 70 years and above, any type of elders, they'll tell you that they've seen everything come in cycles, some of them being lucky enough to live to see some cycles come through twice. Like, for example, a style could be baggy jeans or tight jeans. Or you could look at how sports is covered with the First Take culture, which really took off around the 2010s. And now we're about 15 years later, and networks are still trying to force those shows down our throat, but the audience is not as receptive. That's why we're seeing ESPN license a deal with Pat McAfee, Fox went after the guys at Barstool, even something as trivial as a late night show with Stephen Colbert, a show that was really successful, is now it almost looks as if it's antiquated. I don't remember the last time I ever tuned in into a late night show. Hell, with Stephen Colbert, it's rumored that the show was losing $40 million a year and had over 200 employees. When there's people getting way more views on him on a streaming platform or a platform even like YouTube, and it's probably 1 or 2 or even 5 people that's going through production. So things do come in cycles, even the hip hop industry with Drake, and now the audience has been receptive to someone else, like a guy like Kendrick Lamar, because he represents the opposite. The same thing happened in rock and roll. That's how Nirvana came up in the 90s, and so forth and so forth. All these things come in cycles, and right now in the sports media business, that First Take culture, the audience is pretty much fatigued.
So that's gossip, and it's not gossip, but people keep saying that. I'm like, everybody in this industry is doing the same shit different ways. The same stuff though. You get a story, you get a game, you get a story, you make up a storyline, you try to imagine and fascinate the crowd by saying this team is gonna do this or this team is gonna do that, and then you go there. That's all when I worked at Sports Nation, ESPN, Fox, FS1, ABC, that's all it is. Same here. This is nothing else. What I love about what I'm doing is because I'm still going to talk about sports and games and media, but I'm going to talk about the people who talk about it too. I think they need to be under fire, because if you notice, like Acho, he had to turn off his mentions and shit.
Once again, yo, Marcellus Wiley, I like where he's going at, because this is a brand new dynamic that even us as the audience, we could enjoy this. Guys like Stephen A. Smith, his foot being held to the fire on how he talks about some of these players on First Take. Marcellus Wiley is definitely onto something. But right here, he talks about Emmanuel Acho, a guy who had a stint in the NFL, wasn't really that long-lived. But the way he comes across to the audience is so fake, because in his world, he's trying to find the most viral takes. And that's how he interacts with sports. It's almost from an outrageous standpoint. And he's going to argue down those points in the same way a political pundit on CNN would argue for the Democratic or the Republican side. So we've seen a lot of this trickle down in the sports world because different factions within the media are trying to insert their own people into the sports world, because they understand the real estate that is going to serve in the future as the NBA, the MLB, the NFL branch out into being large global brands. So that's a dynamic that doesn't get talked about too much, that different fractions within the media that have their own groups, like the Oprah Winfrey fraction, inserted Emmanuel Acho into a very advantageous position. That's why I felt like he came out of nowhere, and just the way he interacts and just the way he talks about sports, that's why it seems so off.
If you can't take this heat, why are you giving them hot takes? See, I'm on both sides. I'm an athlete and I'm a personality. So I'm not gonna pick a side. I'm gonna represent both. Dudes be acting like busters. Like, you literally gave 20 minutes to kill Dak or Kevin Durant or LeBron, and then you can't let the crowd tell you, boo. You can't get booed, huh? Only cheered. That's silly. So That's why I do hydration situations. Simple as that. I do it because I want everybody to know we all gotta be accountable. Shoot. Because they be talking reckless and selfishly. Look, I am not holier than thou. I do it because I have 3 little kids. And let me tell you, I got 3 little studs. No one's as big and fast as my son. So what am I thinking? Well, whatever level this ends, whether it's high school, college, or pro, wherever this goes, I don't want people talking shit about my son just because it gets them money. Little busters. Oh, you gonna make a name off of my son? Like, I feel like LeBron. Like, Stephen A, what the fuck? You ain't gonna be talking about my son? Or, I wasn't talking about your son, I was talking about you. I wasn't. Look.
At the end of the day, guys like Stephen A. Smith love to hide behind the journalism credentials or some sort of standards. They hide behind that, but that's not the business that they currently are in. They've now transitioned on into entertainers. If ESPN was about journalism, guys like Michael Wilbon and some of the older guys who've been around chronicling the NBA during their rise in the 90s, they would be front and center. But that's not what the business is about now. But they hide under the quote-unquote code of ethics of journalism. And keep listening, because Marcellus, we're going to get deep into what this industry is really about. Like I said before, there's a very thin line between fandom and how the hell they cover sports on First Take.
Cut the shit. I had to take that boy to every practice. I'm sitting there for 2-3 hours trying to look at this boy's footwork. I'm the one out here in the backyard sweating with this boy. And then you just gonna get up there and just start popping off because it's gonna get you some ratings and get you some love and some money. Okay, you try that way, I got another way. So I love hydration situation because I want these fools to beat. Every time I see they got a problem, oh yeah, well, I'm jumping right in the middle of it, refereeing it. Ding, 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 ding. I hear you, athlete. I'm an athlete. I hear you, broadcaster. I'm a broadcaster.
And that dynamic right there is going to change this whole First Take debate culture, this whole Skip Bayless culture, because now with them all being more online into the virtual world, there's a whole other section to this online metaverse that's almost its own genre where they critique other broadcasters.
Now I'm gonna use your words against you or for you. That's it. But this industry is suspect, man. Not everybody, just a lot of suspect stuff that's getting rewarded because incentives shape behavior. So I look at this situation simple. I'm gonna sum this up. So in summation, this lawsuit it was unnecessary. The lawsuits, the firings, unnecessary. To be real. But it is necessary because it was a lot of backstabbing, a lot of conniving behavior, a lot of advancements based off of things outside of your work merits. People were politicking and they started slapping hands. And it worked. Like anything, it worked from whatever, 2014, 2015, all the way to what we in 2025. Cats thought they got away with it. Cats thought they were in the clear. You know what I mean? Otto and them cats. And I got my friends used to always say, dog, you should be mad at these fools. You should be pissed at these fools. They fucked you, Wiley. They fucked you, homie. And I used to hear it. And then they would literally turn on me because I wasn't mad. Not because I knew this day would come. It's just because even if I am mad, I'm not winning that way. I don't want to get them. I want to get mine. You know what I mean? I don't want to pull them down. I want to come up. I don't want him to feel pain and problems. I just want to feel my own pleasures and my own things I work for, right? So that's why I never turned. That's why I could have lit everybody up in that building. Of course, I was in the building. And I don't know if y'all really know me, but I know everybody. Because I don't be having them hang-ups. I don't be acting nerdy, too nerdy. I don't be acting too hard. I don't be acting too soft. I don't be acting too cool. I'm just me. And if you like it, you like it. If you don't, oh well, that's you. When I see you, I'm gonna say hi and we gonna chop it up, even if you pissed. Ask Ryan Clark. He's still walking around here huffing and puffing. He blocking people too. Another one. How you have all these hot takes and then you be blocking people everywhere?
That right there shows you how phony these people are. spend all day criticizing, but as soon as people call you out on it or just try to debate you, it shows how phony the whole industry is. These guys are sensitive while at the same time they're on air criticizing everybody else. Ain't that a bitch?
Silly, right? Cats be doing that. So when I see you again, Ryan, I'm gonna say what's up. And I know you're gonna be huffing and puffing and acting like you in high altitude. Like, dog, stop. What you mad at? I thought you were winning. This is why I know cats are frauds. They ain't really winning. They just getting money. And I'm like, I've been getting money since 1997.
And that right there, him saying that, introduces a different dynamic we never thought about as the viewing audience of these shows. You see, even though Stephen A. Smith is the hot shot right now, I believe he's making over $20 million a year, some of the former athletes that are on these shows were making that type of money 10 years ago. So certain anchors today have an ego that other athletes are looking at them like, yeah, we achieved that more than a decade ago. And we were making plenty more money on the side. So that's a dynamic the viewing audience never really put out there in Front Street.
Trying to flex on me about some money. Fool, do you know how much money I done, you know the deals I done signed? That made me laugh, Stephen A. trying to come at me with that. I see these questions. Stephen A. try to tell me, oh, I think I won. I think I made it. In 2025? I'm old money compared to you then. You don't come around me talking about, don't flex on me, what you up to, Wiley? You ain't got nothing going. Fool, I'm living off my retirement.
Now, also, when Marcellus Wiley is popping his collar right now, I feel you, brother. But when he said in 2025, it's like the way he said it. Because in his world, if he'd been on top of his A game as long as Stephen A. Smith has, he should have been the top paid dog all these years ago. Because First Take was a cultural trendsetter, I believe around the 2010s, the early 2010s at least. I mean, even Skip Bayless left and established a whole brand new show, and then he got let go, and then that's when Stephen A. Smith finally got paid the big bucks. So, very subtle shot from Marcellus Wiley.
I'm putting out videos on your head. As the kids say, I want the smoke. I do. I want the smoke because I want us all to breathe like it's normal. It ain't smoke. It's the truth. You can't be flexing on people. You can't be talking about LeBron. You can't be talking about KD, Kyrie. You can't be calling these people out and can't get called out. Who in the fuck do you think you are? Where are you from? Really must be Queens. Like literally Queens. He is raised by a lot of women. But
now I'm from NYC, and I could say firsthand, it's something about a couple of sports members, particularly from Queens, around Queens Village, around the Cross Island Parkway. There's a couple of members in the sports media, and I noticed one trait about all of them. They tend to be haters. There's something brewing the water over there by the Cross Island Expressway.
But Queens, like that's some Queens shit. And I ain't talking about Queens the city. I'm just talking about like, Nick, where you from that you can't take this? We touching you up. This football. Oh, it's a contact sport. So everybody out there, all you athletes, all you fans, viewers, touch these people up. They got it. They trying to rig it so they sacred cows. Oh, and if you talk about them, you jealous, you envious, you just at the crib doing nothing. You ain't got a job. Some people don't need a job.
Once again, there's a very thin line between fandom and what they're doing live on the air. And as time goes on, we're seeing it being proven. Once again, FS1, they hired the guys at Barstool. Also with ESPN, even after rejecting Pat McAfee when he tried to get into the building, he branched off and started his own show, and they end up striking a licensing deal with him to attract his audience. In a digital age where everything is moving so fast, a lot of these networks are moving like dinosaurs.
Partner. Some people already made what you making. Partner. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to play flex on flex, ooh, you late. I hate when somebody show up late to the party and act like the party just started. Fool, I've been here. You ever do that? Go to the club? I used to go to the club at 10:30. I go to the club at 10:30. Then everybody pop in like 12, 1 o'clock, and they acting like, oh, it's time to crack. I was like, yeah, I've seen every girl in here. I know emergency exit. I know every bartender name. Like, come on, man. And then they acting like, it's 2 o'clock. I'm like, I'm tired. I'm about to go home. Or I'll rock out with you. But the point is, don't act like the party start when you get there. Your ass is just late. Don't let nobody flex on y'all, dog. These people ain't winning. They just making more money. Trust me. Because if they were winning, they'd be happy. They'll take criticism.
Now, I had family members that worked at some of these sports networks. The pay is low compared to what the industry is. The pay is low for a lot of the behind the scenes people. And you'll be surprised, even the on-air anchors. Once again, the pay is low relatively to how much money the overall production in the industry is pulling in.
They'd be self-deprecating. They would be real personalities. Instead, they just fake ass personas. Real talk. So remember, don't use those two words. You know what those words are, right? Gossip and hater. They trapping y'all so that you can protect them. But if you notice, they get real quiet when they get under fire, right? I had allegations against me. I immediately did a video. Because if I'm gonna run and do a video against Dak or LeBron, you can't do one on you.
That was a very similar situation that played out with Shannon Sharp. He had nowhere to hide. He had to address the elephant in the room. You see, those old tactics used to work when they used to be only on the networks. But once they make the switch to streaming or just being on YouTube and being online, yeah, it's front facing, buddy. You got to show us your cards or like, well, what you thinking or where you at in this whole overall situation. Joey Taylor, in a way, is the only person with real balls out of all the fellas in the sports media. She tackled her shit head on.
Your name in the news, partner. But not them. You know what they do? All of a sudden, they socials get quiet. They take off the comments. Oh, the scary comment from someone I don't know who's judging me. Oh, my frail ego. If y'all don't call these people out, trust me, they ain't calling you. They not calling your house. They not calling your cell, so you better call them out. Sit your ass down, right? So the point is, I'm not about to get 50 years old and then listen to some grown man trying to tell me I'm less than him or different than him. Nah, fool. We doing the same thing differently. As they say, you're uniquely the same. So don't let nobody flex on y'all. They be trying to punk the whole crowd. Oh, you don't know anything. That's why my other show, On the Rocks, is just me and my friends. Y'all can come on the show. I don't give a fuck. Just can't come to my house, so I gotta figure this out. But we're gonna have a public place. I like listening to people because cats be knowing shit that I don't know. But oh no, you're not in the media, so what's your opinion? Man, if you don't get off your high horse, chop you down. Chop them down. Because of where I played football. If you chop me down, that means I gotta work on my technique. Y'all know what the chop block is? Oh yeah, somebody coming from the knees, you gotta do this. Yeah. All you gotta do is, hold on, did y'all see that muscle come out? Shit. Yes, still got it. Okay, wow. All you gotta do is this. But you gotta be alert, you gotta be aware, you gotta be agile. AAA, baby, alert, aware, agile. But they don't want that. They don't want you chopping them. That's wrong, that's wrong. Nah, you just ain't alert. You just ain't agile. You just ain't got the ability. No sacred cows, nope. That's why I like Knick Wright. Knick Wright especially this year, he turned that corner. He's always been good to me. I love Knick Wright, but I like how he's now calling people out. You're like, dog, I mean, because why would I watch you and all you're doing is protecting your friends and your circle and everyone at the desk and then everybody else get hell?
Once again, that's the trickle down from that atmosphere, the political anchors on CNN. They're protecting their clique and a lot of the entities within the media that some of these personalities fall under are placing them within the sports world, and they're bringing that same energy, that same aura into sports, but it doesn't work because in sports there's winners and losers. That's why since the 2010s you hear a lot of anchors all of a sudden, even after their favorite player loses, they go on this diatribe about, oh, you know, but what if this happened, and oh yeah, they had an injury, and you're hearing all these excuses. This is where this culture comes from.
Devin Booker doesn't deserve that money. What if Devin Booker won? What if you won, motherfucker? Oh, hey, that's not my job. Okay, well then you better show some respect in how I do my job. Real spit. We go an hour and then we done. I'm gonna get off. I'm on my horse right now. Fuck that. Black Stallion. You know what I'm saying? But look, y'all, we letting these fools get away with this. And for those who think I'm acting brand new, oh, Wiley, you only saying that now because you ain't there. Watch the tape. I literally was on NFL Live in '07. My boss came to me 2 weeks later and said, you ain't gonna be on this show long. And I thought I was fired already. He said, and that's good. He said, you don't care about no football, no pure sports. He said, you just wanna go up there and talk about people. He said, you just wanna go up there and talk about events, nouns, person, place, things. He was like, you're gonna do personality shows. They ain't even have Sports Nation in. He said, we'll figure this out. He said, but for right now, when Peyton Manning's on the goal line, can you kind of talk about what he's doing instead of like, man, Peyton Manning's so cool. Let me tell you about.
That right there sounds like the early 2000s when digital cable started coming around and networks needed a lot of fill-in airtime in between live sports broadcasts. That's when you started to see the sports nations on ESPN and ESPN2 and the PTIs, and you started to see those kind of shows pop up out of nowhere because there was just so much fill-in time.
They be on there talking third and long, fourth and goal, and I'll be like, man, last time I was out, that's '07. I done had dust-ups with everybody in this industry before.
You know what, the sports networks, they fell for the same trap the cable networks had fell for. Networks like MTV and VH1 with the quick, cheap programming. And for those networks, the cheap program was reality TV. That's when you start to see them air a lot less music videos and more Bad Girls Club and all these ratchet shows where these girls are fighting with BBLs and all kinds of crazy shit. But in regards to the sports world, their version of reality TV was the First Takes and Undisputeds. Those shows are a lot cheaper to produce, and in a way, it provides an unlimited amount of content. And a lot of those clips can also go viral. So they kind of fell for the okie doke. But once again, things go in cycles, and now the audience is fatigued of those kinds of shows. And just like MTV and VH1 with reality TV, they had no plan B to go to. And so now FS1 and ESPN, outside of the First Take debating type of shows, there is no plan B. They're struggling to find that niche in a landscape where the technology has evolved and there's a lot more personalities on different platforms, while at the same time ESPN is trying to compete and they're going to launch their own streaming network. So don't be shocked if you see Shannon Sharp make his return to ESPN because they need his audience.
I don't care. I think it's, and I don't like this whole, in public you clown me, in public we got smoke, and then we're gonna have this private conversation. No, we ain't. We're gonna have the public one. We're gonna have the same convo we had in the same place we had to fight. Let everybody hear you. Bow down. I want everybody to hear your BS. Not you call me. Cats be calling me. They know I don't pick up either. I got like 3 cats on air right now. Call me. I was like, what? I was like, man, you not to say that. I was like, you not to say what you said. I said, I use your words. You didn't like them? Man, what's up with you? What's up with you? You good? Man, this is why I don't pick up the phone. What you mean? I got kids. Are you one of them? No. Why am I talking to you then? This hurt your feelings? Grow up. You think you don't hurt LeBron's feelings? Oh, he can handle it. Well, then you handle it, fool. I can talk circles around them. They so stupid. I'm like, what school did you go to? Are you good? Did I call you for help?
Yo, how you call somebody and say, are you good? That's crazy. That's crazy right there. Damn, you would think maybe they want a relationship. Like, come on, man, what you doing?
Well, then I'm good. I know what these kids' test scores were. Grown-ass men. I'm like, dog, what? And literally trying to like manipulate minds. They got little kids. I remember one of the stories of why I really was going independent and really like, I'm gonna really do it, is because I was coaching my football team, and this is when the Rams won the Super Bowl. So I'm in LA and the Rams are winning the Super Bowl, and these kids love Cooper Kupp. You couldn't tell them nothing. Jerry Rice, who? Cooper Kupp. Every kid on my team, who's your favorite player in the league? Cooper Kupp, Cooper Kupp, Cooper Kupp. Remember that year? So I'm like, all right, that's love. I go to work one day, and on the itinerary, on the agenda, or rundown, damn, it's been a while, I don't even know the damn term. Rundown is like Cooper Kupp, but they want to kill Cooper Kupp, or they want somebody to kill him, right? Acho got to say good, or Acho got to say bad, and you got to say the opposite, or something like that. And I'm sitting there, I remember sitting there, I was like, what? I just left the place where they were worshiping at the altar of Cooper Kupp, and we about to just make up some argument against them so we can get some damn engagement?
Because that's what it's all about now. Once again, the political debate atmosphere from politics, that toxic environment has trickled down into sports because the money is running out on that side post-election, and they're slowly trying to implement their people into the sports world. But now the sports world is based off of what you can bring in. See, the on-air personalities like Shannon Sharp, Stephen A. Smith, Pat McAfee, also the guys at Barstool, the reason why they're getting the larger deals is because they actually bring an audience to the networks. And that's a good thing. Hopefully we don't get no more industry plants like Emmanuel Acho from the Oprah Winfrey camp.
Backstabbing people, backstabbing me just to get their elevation. Okay. And I know how much they all make. They're calling me, trying to front, floss. I know how much they all make. I said, you sold yourself for that? Very few of them people make over $2 million. And I know that's a lot of money. Very few make over $1 million.
Now that right there is the scariest part. Wow, very few makes over $1 million. We're talking about covering all NBA season, all NFL season, and they work for a large network like ESPN that has cable deals, that shell out all that money for NBA, NFL coverage. They have a relationship with advertisers, and they're the only industry in media when they go live, they actually get ratings. They're the last of a dying dinosaur. So money's coming in, but very few anchor members, because we got to put this into proper perspective. $1 million is a lot of money, but for the industry that they're in, the way their work-life balance is kind of mixed in, for very few on-air personalities to make over $1 million, that's unbelievable. ESPN was paying anchors back in the 90s and 80s more money than that. And they did way less work, and they didn't have to be on air as often.
You doing all that hooping and hollering, clowning, changing your personality, ego, never at home, ain't raising no family for a few $100,000. You're gonna wake up one day and be like, damn, was it worth it? Let me answer that right now. Hell no. No, dummy. No, it wasn't worth it, but to each his own.
So there you have it. Great insight from Marcellus Wiley. And when it comes to Adam Silver, he may have to reconsider and re-examine the way ESPN is interacting with the NBA. They're now doing full intros for Stephen A. Smith during the games as if he's a player entering the arena. So they're more invested into introducing their own personalities within the NBA. And the storytelling is poor. The way the last two NBA finals were covered was a little bit iffy. 2024 during the Celtics and Mavericks series, they spent the whole time talking about the Lakers hiring JJ Redick. And in the 2025 finals, it was even worse. There was no backstory. The production was very vanilla. It was very Wonder Breadish. Nobody gets excited for Wonder Bread. So outside of the TV deal and the money that was exchanged from that, Adam Silver is going to have to re-examine the way ESPN is interacting with the NBA. They're not necessarily growing the game. And next NBA season, they're going to have some competition because NBC is going to put on a masterclass and show ESPN how to properly broadcast the NBA and introduce an audience who may be not too familiar with the league and make them actually interested in the game that's going to be telecast through a lot of storytelling. They're really great at this. And matter of fact, we're going to hear from the woman that's actually responsible for this type of coverage. And we've seen so far with some of the recruitments that they've made to join their cast, Michael Jordan, guys like Carmelo Anthony, they're going to swing big, and ESPN will look foolish if they put on another bland production for the finals next season. When you guys meet Jennifer Storms, she's the head honcho, the chief marketer at NBC. This is the woman that's going to have ESPN step up their telecast of the NBA next season.
So excited, right now getting close to the season start. Obviously we have another year, but it's an opportunity for us to spend the year really working closely with the National Basketball Association and learning. This is a great new audience to bring to our platform. Our platforms and the ability for us to bring it to life. We make big events bigger, And we have such success with so many other platforms, whether they're sports or entertainment content on NBC, Peacock, any of the cable networks, Telemundo. So it's going to be a great opportunity for us. And I think this long runway of pre-planning really is going to give us an opportunity to make this something very incredible and special. And we've already started promotion. So we started promotion actually in the Olympics with a great bespoke piece of content that was signaling to the NBA on NBC Legacy and Round Ball Rock, which we're so known for. So having that foundation and that incredible legacy is just going to behoove us and make it that much better when we walk into this, a year from now.
And make no mistake about it, NBC already had a successful blueprint on how to market NBA games. You could go ahead and do the Google searches, hit up ChatGPT, whatever you use. Just look at the way NBC used to introduce the games in the past. As an audience member, you don't even have to even know what happened previously. They marketed the game in a way where they did great storytelling, and it's almost like there was a hero and a villain. They do a great job of presenting the storyline in a way where you're looking for the triumphant moment. And at the end, they tell you, hey, it's coming up next. Once again, you guys could research it. You could put in the search box NBA on NBC intro, and you'll see a ton of them. And just look at the way they present the storyline. I'll include one of the links in the description below for you guys to check it out directly. But they do a great job of the storytelling. And that's something that ESPN is completely lacking. That's why the NBA Finals this year felt completely bland. It was like having chicken with no seasoning, boiled. It had nothing to do with Doris Burke, really. It was just the overall presentation was pretty bland. It was like seeing a 99-cent Wonder Bread. But hey, it is what it is. The media landscape is definitely being shaken up. So the NBA is at a very interesting time and space when it comes to sports gambling. As last season, we spoke about how sports betting brought over $2 billion in just one quarter in New York State alone. And then when it comes to this gambling endeavor, as the NBA and other sports leagues try to corporatize this industry, which has always involved the underworld, there are going to be quite a few hiccups. And in this segment right here, we're going to learn how the Jontay Porter and also the situation with Malik Beasley has a lot of evidence of being connected to a few people that are on Knick's Twitter. Ironically, very unusual, but these guys had known months in advance that Jontay Porter and Malik Beasley would be investigated, and they even showed receipts 2 or 3 games before the initial game that was investigated for prop bets. There's definitely some sort of gambling scheme going on, but we're going to break this down layer by layer. And first, we're going to hear from Adam Silver as the NBA speaks on engagement, as they have a lot of competition for eyeballs when it comes to keeping especially younger fans engaged with their product.
The data is clear that if somebody has a bet on a game, even a small bet, they're much more likely to engage in that match. They're much more likely to watch it. They're more likely to watch it for more minutes. They're more likely to be interested in the participants and to follow the sport. So there's no doubt there's a business component to this.
Now, right here, we heard Adam Silver talk about the data. Keep in mind, it's the same data that was telling him before load management was a good thing, just for him to back up out of that while the NBA was in negotiations for a brand new TV deal. He referred back to the data not being valid when it came to load management. But right here, when it comes to the gambling, all of a sudden he goes back on that same data. Again, the rabbit hole gets deep, but we're going to break this down slow. Let's listen to him one more time.
The data is clear that if somebody has a bet on a game, even a small bet, they're much more likely to engage in that match. They're much more likely to watch it. They're more likely to watch it for more minutes. They're more likely to be interested in the participants and to follow the sport. So there's no doubt there's a business component to this.
There's definitely a business component to this, but they're going to have to accept the good and the bad. And as we go through this segment, we're going to see the Jontay Porter incident has a connection to the Malik Beasley situation, as both players had debts owed to people that were on Knick's Twitter. Again, the rabbit hole does get deep. We're going to break this slow. And just to stick to Jontay Porter and his situation, and how Terry Rozier was also kind of linked in a similar way before he was found innocent. The issue with the prop bets puts the leagues in a very sticky situation, And it also exposes that all the gambling companies, they have third-party entities working alongside with them as almost a collaborator, letting each casino know unusual bets. So some of you fellas that love hitting up some of those gambling apps, just know that once you get too good, even if you're not committing any type of crime or fixing any games, they do have an entity where they could share information and how often you do come away with the pot. Now, the NBA made an adjustment after the Jontay Porter situation, in which players who make under a certain amount of salary, you cannot place prop bets on those players. So they kind of put in a little play to avoid that system. And this is where we get into the meat and potatoes, because Pablo Torre and a few other NBA media members had tracked down a few people who actually knew in advance, about 6 months, that Jontay Porter and Malik Beasley would be investigated in some sort of gambling scheme. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
So Miami Heat guard Terry Rozier, who's under contract with the Heat as we speak, he became the second player after Jontay Porter to be publicly identified as a part of this federal investigation into sports betting. And what I'm told is, contrary to Shams Charania's reporting, is that Terry Rozier has not been cleared of any wrongdoing, only that his name came up in the existing federal investigation.
That's very interesting, because that was not the narrative going on with the Terry Rozier situation. The way it was reported, it was almost as if his name was cleared. See, the league is in a sticky situation because it's the way they overtly promoting this. And for them to just have all these lingering investigations over their heads, even their media partners are reporting certain stories kind of very secretive. It's either the follow-up to these investigations are going out of the news cycle, or just the way the Terry Rozier follow-up was made, and it made it seem like his name was cleared.
And this relates directly to why Moose is this character that we're focusing on, because Free Moose _NBA, Tom, speaks to the federal investigation, which clearly is also still ongoing.
Right. On that day, the same day that Terry Rozier news drops, this guy, Free Moose _NBA, tweeted something that was even more provocative, because on that day, he posted, quote, "First was Jontay, then was Rozier. Next you'll hear about capital M, 4 asterisks, capital B, and then 6 asterisks." This guy, Free Moose NBA, posted another tweet right after that one and said, "There's another current player who's gonna have a report come out about them next. Won't say the name, but they play on the Pistons right now."
What this is the first documented mention by anyone anywhere that Malik Beasley was going to come up as part of this investigation. This is how this news actually breaks. Free Moose _NBA has it in that rule of 3 tweet.
And in this reporting, I determined this guy at the time of this tweet had something like 10,000 followers. And a lot of them were like, huh? Like, what? One of them later that night in a tweet exchange with a Pistons fan, because Malik Beasley at this point is playing for the Pistons and being awesome. He tells Moose, "You're lying, bro. Show me any amount of proof, bro. You don't know what he means to us." And Moose says, quote, "I can't yet. I'm sorry, but gotta protect myself." 15 views on that tweet.
It's incredible. I mean, this time capsule, which is almost 6 months before the news breaks, right? On the eve of free agency, 6 months before it happens, it's happening in the mentions of this thing.
So that's the crazy thing about this is maybe you think, oh, he's just throwing shit in the wall and tries to see what sticks, right? Shot in the dark. Then he quote tweets that tweet with a screenshot of a betting slip from January 22nd, 2024. That betting slip is Jontay Porter unders. Under on points, 5.5, and under on rebounds, 3.5. Now, I know what you're thinking. Oh, yeah, that's the game, right? No. The game that was in the court filings that under investigation was, for the first time, was January 26th.
Sheesh. That rabbit hole is getting deep. It seems like the feds were a little bit late onto the scheme. Even their investigation was, it was off. This scheme by Porter seems like it was going on long before they just actually reported it. And this might have played out for optics reasons. They don't want to make it seem like this was a long going thing. But again, the way the NBA is interacting with the online world through streaming, or even their media partners like ESPN, now having the online personalities, these stories are going to be very hard to suppress, especially if they get way, way too deep going down that rabbit hole.
Yes.
Meaning, whoever placed the slip had the in on the Jontay Porter action months before the investigation was announced.
The question here is now very simple, right? On some level, because the entire internet, the entire NBA, we can now confirm this, right? Everybody begins to ask, Tom, who the is Moose_NBA? How did a random Twitter user on NBA Twitter know about both Jontay Porter and also Malik Beasley on the day that Terry Rozier's name was included for the first time, the second of the three guys, before any of this was breaking?
Making things way more complicated is that FreeMoose_NBA deleted his account and then disappeared off the internet.
Now, after some deep digging, I'm not going to lie, some of these media guys were right on it. And Free Moose comes out of NYC, and me just being a former resident out there, I understand, hey, there's cameras everywhere. Especially if you go into Knicks games and you're sitting courtside, yeah, they're going to scope you out. There's all kinds of camera angles in MSG. And unlike other NBA arenas, Madison Square Garden is almost like a police station hub. More than 90% of the security at that arena is NYPD officers because the city has a contract with James Dolan and Madison Square Garden events, I should say, not just the Knicks, it's the Rangers or just most events. And Adam Silver, or I believe Commissioner David Stern, had made a couple of fusses about some of the officers bringing their street energy into that arena. And the presence of just being over policed in that arena is kind of hostile to fans who are just coming in to have fun. But living in NYC, there's cameras everywhere. And these guys were not only able to track down this Twitter user, but he also made the mistake of agreeing to a phone call with one of these media members.
What's going on?
Nothing much, my man.
How we doing on this fine Tuesday?
Not too bad. I'm busy at work, but not too bad. I took a little time off.
Oh yeah? What's work for you?
I am a manager at an auto collision shop.
Okay. Very cool. And where's that at? In New York somewhere?
Yeah.
NYC shit right there, man. I'm not gonna lie. We paranoid as hell. We're not gonna admit exactly where we are. But he should not be on the phone with this guy, because there is technology out there where they got your voice. And as we're gonna see it play out, they're gonna be able to track these guys.
Okay. Well, cool. So thanks for getting back to me. We're doing like this story on Malik Beasley, and your Moose stuff came across when we were like going into the story. And so finally connecting with you is great. And so thank you for picking up. So what I find out is that he's in his 20s. He is a Knicks fan. Not just a Knicks fan, he is a Knicks super fan. And he goes to Madison Square Garden and everything.
Yeah, a bunch of times.
Who would you say is your favorite Knicks player of all time?
That is another mistake right there. Again, NYC, there's cameras everywhere, especially in that arena.
Gotta be Melo.
Carmelo Anthony?
Yeah, it's gotta be Melo.
But even more than that, when it comes to NBA Twitter, this guy says he's very well connected.
Mustafa Omar likes finding out stuff too.
Yeah, I mean, I go by Moose. I know a bunch of people involved in the NBA space, so if I ever have any questions, I'm able to eventually get them answered. The way that, like, you're a reporter and you go and you ask your questions to everybody and you try to get whatever info, I kind of do the same. I just do good research as well. I'm a stats guy. I was giving out stats and stuff that people wouldn't normally think of. My first ever post was a playoff scenario chart, very similar to the one that NBA PR account on Twitter posted, but mine was a day before, and then theirs looked identical to mine, which was very funny. So everybody kind of called out the fact that the NBA PR account basically ripped off my scenario chart. I started growing my account relatively quickly. Got suspended. Not sure why till this day. Made a second account. That one also got suspended. And now I'm kind of just off the grid over it because my accounts keep getting suspended.
Did he ever find out why he was getting suspended?
Well, he says he doesn't know.
I wasn't like the most family-friendly account either. I'm sure I said some things that people are gonna take to liking sometimes. I'm sure that's possible.
I do like at this point how this guy is kind of all three of us in one person. He loves finding stuff out. He loves stats. He loves talking shit on Twitter unapologetically, like a bean.
Sounds like every fucking New Yorker. I'm not gonna lie. We love talking shit.
He loves talking shit on Twitter unapologetically, like a bean.
And he is the sort of guy, again, who wants people to know that he knows things, including a forthcoming report about Malik Beasley. So on January 30th, 2025, the same day that the federal investigation into Terry Rozier was announced, he tweets that thing out. The prophecy of Malik Beasley.
I mean, I just did it to be a little cryptic. I knew nobody would believe it, but obviously it's fine. I just put it out there just to be a little like cryptic for when it did come out. People could look back at it the way that they did when the news did came out.
But how did you come across the Malik Beasley info?
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people in the basketball and the gambling space, so word does get around. Eventually, it gets to me from people that I know. Obviously, people I'm not gonna sit here and name, but I do have people that do know a lot about the gambling ring and NBA and stuff. And I didn't know about Beasley during when he was actually doing it.
And just to be clear here, that's Moose talking, right? He's saying Malik Beasley did it. That's not us saying that.
I found out this past January 2025, and obviously now they are suffering having to let him walk in free agency and replace him with somebody like Duncan Robinson, who's not even close to the caliber player that I thought Malik Beasley was this year.
So when I asked Mustafa Omar who told him about Malik Beasley specifically, he kept claiming that this was something he saw on Reddit, which was kind of strange.
This is something that was dug up from Reddit. I mean, everything that I found and I tweet about, I only tweet about it because I find it publicly first.
I know people, I know things, but also I saw this on Reddit.
Again, of course, Medea's family reunioned this. We scanned through everything we could find on Reddit, looking for a hidden Malik Beasley. Where is Malik Beasley here? We could find nothing resembling this prediction. And of course, by the way, to state the obvious again, if this was publicly noted anywhere, then we would have probably heard about it in the way that we heard about this tweet. It would have gone viral, it would have been surfaced. The prophecy would have been someone else's and not Moose's.
So then I started asking Mustafa Omar, Moose, about the Jontay Porter FanDuel betting slip that he posted, which again was placed on January 22nd, 2024, months before the Jontay Porter investigation was ever public. Now, when I asked him about this, he became cagier than he'd been at any point in our conversation.
Honestly, I don't know much about the slip. Like I said, it was just sent to me from someone, but
he said it was sent to him from someone else. It wasn't his betting slip. He just happened to get it and then post it onto his account. And this is where we should mention something we have not yet told Moose, which is that deep in our reporting, we found yet another screenshot. Yes, another one from Moose's private paywall Discord, where he was trying to drum up business for his next meme coin, the sequel, not just National Coin Association, which he apparently, lost his shirt on. The goal this time, a quote, over 100 million market cap, end quote. And on November 27th, 2024, he wrote explicitly, quote, This next project is going to have people involved that no other project would even be able to get their hands on. Some names I can't even legally mention because they made so much money off a certain NBA gambling incident last season and are facing trials. But they will be involved in this.
So hold on. At this point in time, November 2024, the only gambling incident known, confirmed in the NBA is Jontay Porter.
Yes. In the Jontay Porter story, the feds found this deeply sloppy private Telegram chat. And the most memorable character in Jontay Porter's group chats was the owner of a deli, on Roosevelt Island here in our city of New York. And this deli owner, who I mentioned at the top of the episode, was not merely a person that Jontay Porter owed, quote, significant gambling debts to, according to federal prosecutors. I also remember this deli owner as a New Yorker because he had been previously embroiled in a scandal of a different kind. And this is the scandal that involved an unhoused woman who fell into the subway tracks as the F train was approaching. And as a result, she lost both of her legs. This woman sued, wound up settling with the MTA, which runs the New York City subway, for $4 million. The person that she trusted to cash one of her final settlement checks for around $800,000, according to these legal documents, happens to be this same deli owner.
Just to put this into proper perspective, they found a deli owner in small-ass Roosevelt Island, which is almost like finding a needle in a haystack in NYC. It's so small. It's mostly apartment buildings. And to find this lawsuit and it being the same guy that Jontay Porter owed money to is insane. Pablo Torre and this crew right now is doing some Illuminati level of investigating. Holy shit.
What the fuck?
By the name of Amar Awade. And Amar allegedly took that check, the city's payback, to, again, a homeless, legless, wheelchair-bound woman who was also suffering from mental illness. He took that check to his friend who was a bank manager, and then they got the $800,000 deposited into the account of his deli, which Amar denied in court in a case that was eventually dismissed, although he did admit that $80,000 did wind up in his personal account. So prosecutors, for the record here, alleged that he spent the woman's money on, quote, gambling trips and wedding expenses, including a bachelor party in Las Vegas and honeymooning in Turks and Caicos.
This is as dark as it gets, this story.
I missed the part where we were talking about Larsa Pippen.
My man spent that money like a woman. God damn. He did everything but get a fucking BBL.
Things were so lighthearted back then.
What I want our audience to know is that what I started doing at this point was comb through every publicly accessible social media profile we had ever found for our guy, Moose. And while looking through the names of the people that Mustafa Omar is friends with on Facebook, I found one extremely familiar name.
The Twitter user that's named Moose is friends with the same guy that Jontay Porter owes money to, the bodega owner that cashed that $800,000 check for the one-legged lady. This shit is crazy.
So he's not lying when he says, I'm connected with a guy who's involved in the NBA's gambling incident.
Yes, a certain NBA gambling incident. There, in fact, is a connection. We have just verified that. They are literal Facebook friends. And furthermore, what I did with my life was I naturally plunged further into the Amar Awade rabbit hole. And this one brought me to a source that I encountered here in New York City who knew him from back when they were both frequenting these allegedly illegal private poker games in Manhattan around 5 to 8 years ago. And my source says that this game that they were playing in actually took place in a private apartment. This is how this worked. Residential building, top floor, just blocks away from Madison Square Garden, actually. It has since moved, but that's where it was at the time. And it's a sort of game where the minimum buy-in is $2,500, aka the monthly allotment for weed, according to the trap rules that we encountered before. There is no maximum, it turns out. And it's otherwise full of lawyers and doctors and hedge fund managers, and also, according to my source, several of the names on those Jontay Porter group chats who also wound up getting arrested. One of those Porter associates who got arrested was a dealer at this poker game, I am told. Another dealer who went by the name Bruce. And both of those guys, obviously, also got ensnared in this probe. And anyhow, when I showed my source to, again, fact check this profile, this Facebook profile of Amar Awade, what he immediately said, without any knowledge of any of this episode, I didn't mention Mustafa Omar and how they're friends or anything. I showed him this photo, and my source just immediately laughs over the phone. And he identifies him as, oh, yeah, I have stories about this guy. And what my source told me is that even after Amar was identified as being involved in the Jontay Porter investigation, remember, Jontay Porter was banned for life from the NBA as of April 2024, Amar was still texting people trying to set up poker games. Quote from my source, I do remember thinking, is he so arrogant that he thinks he's above this? End quote. This takes us directly back to the phone call that Tom was having with the guy who loves Carmelo Anthony, who is Facebook friends with Amar, who had also just been telling you, Tom, I believe, the following about the Jontay Porter betting slip screenshot that he tweeted out back in January of 2024.
Honestly, I don't know much about the slip. Like I said, it was just sent to me from someone, but...
So here, I had to do the most important thing in this conversation. I had to ask Moose about his connection to Amar directly. Are you friends with, or do you know Amar Awade?
No.
No?
Damn, that's his first hint that he fucked up even talking to them on the phone.
No.
Okay, because I saw that you're Facebook friends with Amar, and so I figured maybe that was somehow you were associated with him.
No.
Like, this guy's been super chatty this whole time, and when I bring up Amar Awade, just one word, no. Which brings us back to the Facebook profile of Amar. Another photo that you can see on it at the top, the banner photo. It's a bit blurry. It's like someone is taking the photo from way back in the 300 section, and it's kind of zoomed in.
Now, for those of you that are on the visual version, this is a picture of Melo dapping up someone courtside at MSG during a playoff game. So right now, these reporters are going to triangulate all these photos that were taken during that game to try to figure out who these guys are. Once again, it's some Illuminati investigation that Pablo Torre and his crew has been doing. And I don't think these fellas from Queens were ready for this type of heat coming down their back.
At the center of this photo is a guy who looks like Amar standing courtside on the baseline at Madison Square Garden. And what's important here is that in this moment, this person is also dapping up a tall black dude dressed in all yellow, a yellow sweater with matching yellow shorts, wearing a baseball cap. The photo was uploaded. You can see it on the Facebook profile. The photo was uploaded on April 23rd, 2024. So this is during the 2024 NBA playoffs. So what do? You go to the game logs. You go to Basketball Reference, schedule and results. You click just to see if the Knicks were playing any time around that date on April 23rd, 2024. And you can see on that date in the Knicks schedule, April 22nd, they beat the Philadelphia 76ers in an extremely dramatic game at the Garden.
So I just got to jump in here to point out that this game at Madison Square Garden happened 5 days after Jontay Porter got banned for life from the NBA, which means that it also happened while the feds were actively investigating Amar Awade, who was standing right there, courtside, for his role in that same historic gambling scandal. And now, when you pull multiple angles on this specific play, what you can clearly see in retrospect is the identity of the tall black dude in all yellow, the same one Amar Awade is dapping up in his Facebook banner photo after arguably the greatest play in modern Knicks history. Because, of course,
it's Moose's GOAT, Carmelo Anthony. Amazing.
He looks jubilant. It looks like he's the happiest day of his... I mean, look, all of which reminded us of something we had found pretty early on in our search for any tweet that had tagged Moose_NBA. We had found an angle of this play, of the three, from the baseline shot off a cell phone, and the video credit was, quote, courtesy Moose_NBA.
Get the fuck out of here.
It's right there on the right side of your screen. This is the thing that hit us literally as we were sitting down to tape today.
Now let's watch this same play from the Madison Square Garden camera that's looking straight out at the basket, so you can see the full baseline.
And after countless more hours of Twitter and Facebook searching, we realized something. The guy sitting next to Amar Awade, who's pictured holding his cell phone, which I can only assume is the cell phone he used to shoot the video of that Dante DiVincenzo 3, had actually identified himself on Twitter by name as the guy who taped it and sent it to Moose_NBA. And we saw this because Cell Phone Guy, it turns out, was beefing with Barstool Sports, which had aggregated the video without giving either of them credit. And by now, as a student of the Rule of Three, Tom easily recognized Cell Phone Guy. He was a third person we had noticed while combing through various Facebook albums. A person better known as Amar's brother, Omar Awade. And even though Moose denied even knowing Amar to Tom, we found more pictures of all three of these guys. Graduations, parties, weddings. We even found a video of Omar wearing a Spreewell jersey going to a Knicks game with Moose, who was wearing a Carmelo Anthony jersey that by now, all of us had seen a lot.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Omar, the newest member of Spectators. On my way to the Knicks game, you see me decked out in the Spreewell. Had to do it to him. Magic is in town. Just smoked him by 30. About to smoke him by another 30. And I'm on the way. Come roll with me.
At which point, it became clear that Moose_NBA, Twitter's Malik Beasley prophet, was more than just Facebook friends with alleged Jontay Porter co-conspirator Amar Awade. Moose was his relative, his cousin. And this is where it takes us back now to the legal documents as we try to connect all the dots here, right? So generally observing the following. In the Jontay Porter legal documents, quote, a relative of the defendant, Amar Awade, whose identity is known to me, placed a $10,000 parlay bet through betting company One on the under for player One's three-pointers, assists, and steals. It goes on to talk about how the relative won $85,000, netting a profit of $75,000.
Sheesh. For those of you watching the visual version, Amar's name is on the paperwork for the investigation by the feds on DeJounte Porter. Once again, these guys are connecting the dots. And these fellas out of NYC, man, they really underestimated the level of investigation that they was gonna tie all this together with. Whew. The rabbit hole definitely does get deep.
And so just saying that Amar Awade, in terms of the information he was sharing, who he was bringing in to the thing he was already caught up in. We don't know which family member it is. They're anonymous, according to the federal prosecutors. But family is literally mentioned in the federal investigation a number of times.
I had to follow up with Mustafa to make sure he had his story straight on this. So I asked him again. You did not get information on Malik Beasley from Amar Awade, who is part of the Porter case?
No. Like I said, I got it off of Reddit.
Do you have that Reddit forum that you got it from that you could show me?
I could probably find it.
Yeah.
Would you be fine with me searching it and then getting it to you on Twitter?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Man, that motherfucker is not hitting you back, brother. He is not hitting you back. That is code red to, drop that number if you have to. These guys are on your heels.
All right. Let's do that, son.
Despite the preponderance of evidence from his own posts and his own brags to having a connection to someone in this, he claims zero knowledge and that he got it from Reddit.
Yeah, he said he got it from Reddit, and it was public. And after I hung up with Mustafa Omar, who promised me to hit me back on Twitter and send that Reddit post that would clear him of all of this and just say, hey, they had it. It wasn't me. What happened next was I logged back into my Twitter account and I DM'd him back a reminder being like, hey, if you can just grab that Reddit post and send it back to me. Bloop. I got an error message. And that error message said message not sent, sending direct message failed. I thought my internet was down or that he turned off his DMs, but nope, guys. He had shut down his account.
Damn, I called that out perfect. Yo, when I say us New Yorkers are paranoid people, that dude shut down that account. Man, he paid it in full if he owed any money. He made sure that account could be erased from the record books. Shit, he might even send him a screenshot himself to tell him that the account is disconnected. He's out of there.
And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to check his Facebook profile. And guess what? That too, guys, was taken down seconds after we got off that phone. All of it gone.
The timeline has the Jontay Porter betting slip, right? This is now what Moose had posted. That was dated what, Tom?
The betting slip, if you look at it closely, it says January 22nd, 2024, okay? The game one in the Jontay Porter case came 4 days later, January 26th. So that's important here because this actually predates that game one.
Which is to say, that what we are circling here, what we've been exhaustively reporting here, actually is ostensibly an expansion of the scope that the Eastern District of New York, the U.S. Attorney's Office, had published, which started 4 days after this.
Yep, on the 26th. So the feds, the way they were investigating DeJounte Porter, they actually went through the scheduling a little bit too late because he was already fixing games before they started their investigation. So I believe it was on the 26th is where they started. And in reality, he was fixing games for a while, way before that. Again, the rabbit hole gets deep on this situation. And for those of you that are watching the visual version of this, I've included all the screenshots.
But here we have all of these connections to indicate that actually the dude who's ensnared in that thing, Amar, is connected to the dude who posted this thing from 4 days before that.
So remember, we have the betting slip January 22nd. We have game one of this inquiry with the feds on January 26th. Then 5 days later, we get a flurry of unusual betting activity on Malik Beasley's unders for his 2.5 rebounds.
Yes, and that unusual betting was also reported by a third-party company that's in collaboration with a lot of sports books. That one entity is supposed to notify everyone else on unusual sports betting. And I'm gonna add a little extra sauce on top, more than likely because everything's on an algorithm. The odds that they're gonna give you may end up looking different on your app versus someone else who's more of a novice player. Make no mistake about it, they're sharing that information.
At a sports book that flagged this to ESPN. So we have within less than 10 days, the betting slip, the first Jontay Porter game, and the Malik Beasley game. We have to note the timeline here that this January 31st game it's not like a random game in terms of the timeline of things. It puts it within basically a week.
It's all when this stuff was happening. In our example, again, of the rule of three, this is how this all was unfolding. What we've established in that timeline is that there are some things that are documented and undeniable and confirmed in terms of, yes, connecting, or at the very least, moving the dots close together. They're all conspicuously proximate to each other. And by the way, we've also been making calls about Malik Beasley. Malik Beasley's attorney, Steve Haney, Tom, he did send us a statement, right?
Here's the statement from Steve Haney. Presuming someone is guilty when they haven't been charged with the crime, let alone convicted, is a dangerous narrative. The mere allegations have caused irreparable harm to Malik's image, reputation, and career.
Now, here's another interesting dynamic at play. Malik Beasley may have a lawsuit in his hands if he is found clear of all these allegations, because the timing of the news of him being investigated, it came out right before he was about to sign, I believe it was a $42 million a year contract. So unlike Terry Rozier, who was already locked into his contract, this affected Malik Beasley's money. And this is a guy who had probably a record-breaking season when it comes to three-point shooting. Last season, he was one of the better three-point shooters in the whole league. But once again, the benefits the NBA is seeing as far as the money side to this whole gambling venture, it outweighs the negatives.
The note I want to get to at the end here, by the way, is that when it comes to, so what explains all of this, right? Our investigation continues. It does. It continues because we have reason to believe that these are not coincidences, that these are connections. We have reason to believe that when it comes to unusual betting action coming in on an under, Malik Beasley winds up hitting the over pretty hard through his level of hunger and play. But you also have Moose and Amar and this Facebook friendship and these details and these pictures courtside that we should not say what we are tempted to. This is where I should probably mention that the lawyer for Amar Awade, who is currently on house arrest, declined comment to PTFO, as did the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Eastern District of New York, which is an entity that I now wonder about too. Because what I found out today is that our moose hunt has actually expanded the FBI's scope of the Jontay Porter scandal, the betting scandal, beyond what the government itself has been able to publicly establish, at least. And we have connected it now to the prophecy of the Malik Beasley investigation. If not Malik Beasley, noted garbage time god, himself. But maybe my biggest takeaway here, as we try to square that particular circle, concerns what it really takes to investigate a scandal like this in the age of legalized sports gambling. And legalized sports gambling is obviously everywhere now. DraftKings was the sponsor of this show for the first year and a half of our existence. They remain the major partner, and to their credit, by the way, they want to catch bad actors. They are incentivized to try and flag those suspicious bits of betting activity. That's how a lot of this stuff is being caught in real time. And yet, this age has spawned a wave of conflicting incentives and new vulnerabilities. The characters everybody needed to study this entire time were on the place that we all say we want to leave, but clearly haven't. NBA Twitter.
And NBA Twitter indeed is an interesting place. But make no mistake about it, the way the prop bets went for the Jontay Porter investigation was him actually going under what he was projected to do according to the algorithms. Let's say he was projected to get 3 rebounds. He would actually just sit out the game, say he has an injury, and leave the game early. But in the case of Malik Beasley, the analytics and data kind of expose he's the best player performing in garbage time. So that right there is kind of a red flag. So let's say he's projected to get 3 rebounds. He would go out of his way And the footage actually shows it. He's going out of his way to grab boards, and he's playing very hard even in garbage time where his team is up 20. He did this in Minnesota, and he's done this in Detroit. So it is what it is. The rabbit hole gets deep on a lot of this information, and ironically enough, through this investigation, the feds actually opened up the date range that they were looking at from when Jontay Porter actually fixed these games. Again, there's a lot of things that's conflicting. The NBA in a major partnership with these sports books, also their media partners have huge advertising dollars coming in from these sports books. So a lot of the reporting after the initial investigations that are happening, the follow-ups are not getting the same kind of attention, and they're kind of being suppressed and squashed. But we'll see how this plays out. This is not the first, and this will definitely not be the last. But interesting enough, all this was linked to a couple of guys that were on NBA Twitter, Knick's Twitter specifically, and had randomly tweeted out who would be under investigation in the near future. I gotta say, the NBA as well as other sports leagues are just looking at the dollars rolling in, and they're thinking to themselves the dollar amount might justify the few headaches that we're gonna get. But it is what it is. You guys definitely hit up the link in the description below. We got a few playlists in there. We got game footage. We got more NBA stories. And until next time, you fellas, stay safe. Peace.